I want to move on to something that Governor Walz has called you and Donald Trump, and that is weird.
Sure.
And it is taken off. The New York Times reports that when Donald Trump was asked about it, he said, "Not me, they're talking about JD."
Oh, he did say that. Bro, Trump is so awesome. He just can't stand not being popular. He can't stand being perceived as unintelligent. But more importantly than that, he can't stand not being perceived as popular. He can definitely stand being perceived as like violent and aggressive and all of these things that invoke power. But the moment that you call him a fucking weirdo, he crumbles, dude. He's like, nah, they were talking about JD Vance, actually. Not me. They were saying that about JD.
Well, certainly they've levied that charge against me more than anybody else, but I think that it drives home how they're trying to...
You're such a cuck. This is precisely why he was selected to be VP. Because he is such a gross little worm, dude. Oh, he just took it. Bro, he just ate that. Oh my God, JD Vance is... I know exactly what photo this is. Yep. This is JD, baby. Oh, embarrassing. To be fair, there's not really much he could do to fix that, to salvage that, because it's so obvious. I don't know how you just allow yourself to be embarrassed over and over again in front of the entire nation. I can tell you, it's when you're a careerist douchebag with no discernible position beyond having proximity to power. JD Vance was already a carpetbagger. He rose to prominence by literally selling out the Appalachian people, his own people. He called his mother a fucking crackhead in his book and said she was gross. He said the mountain people have a unique way of just being resentful and angry. Part of that was dire economic prospects that were presented to them. But also the other reason was because they just did not have any sort of real attitude towards picking themselves up by their fucking bootstraps. He did that shit and liberals loved it. Liberals were like, oh my God, please tell me more about how these mountain people are just like racist monsters. Oh, sanctioned one who knows how to whisper to the white working class.
Distract from their own policy failures. I mean, look, this is fundamentally schoolyard bully stuff. They can accuse me of whatever they want to accuse me of. As Harry S. Truman once said, if you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen. And I'm doing this because I think that me being vice president will help improve people's lives. So I accept their attacks, but I think that it is a little bit of projection, Dana. If you think about, just take a couple of days ago, Tim Walz gives this big speech. He's been announced as the VP nominee. And I remember when I had just been announced as the VP nominee, I gave my big speech and I saw my wife and I gave her a big hug and a kiss because I love my wife and I think that's what a normal person does. Tim Walz gave his wife a nice, firm Midwestern handshake and then tried to sort of awkwardly correct for it. So I think that what it is...
Dude, that's not going to work. You can't do that. Number one, he's still getting his talking points from Twitter. And worst of all, not just Twitter, but Donald Trump Jr. I saw this and I actually responded to it earlier today. Totally normal to greet your wife with a firm handshake and bro hug / backslap. Tim Walz isn't weird at all, guys. So that was like something that Donald Trump Jr. thought was a good line of attack, to which I responded in the bitchiest way possible. I said, I wouldn't be posting shit like this knowing full well that the governor of California made your current wife feel things you'll never be able to make her feel. Obviously, that was maybe a little too bitchy, but also a lot of this is about how people read people on camera. You cannot, no matter how hard you try, make a narrative like that stick with a guy like Tim Walz because he doesn't read like that. He reads like a fucking regular ass Midwestern dad. He reads too normal in comparison to the rest of the DC bureaucrats. And I'm not just saying that because I personally like him or like his background. I'm just also looking at the polls. He was a relatively lesser known governor who was very popular in his state. He was pretty popular in his state. But beyond that, in every state that he has appeared so far, he's leading in the approval ratings by like multiple digits at this point in comparison to even Kamala Harris. He's got like a +11 boost on fucking Pennsylvania. Kamala Harris is a +2. So obviously people are responding to it positively as well. My normie friends who fucking despise Joe Biden genuinely elated with Walz. And the thing is, you can't look at that and be like, that's weird. That's the weird thing, actually. This guy who like hugged his wife after delivering a speech, shook her hand and then hugged her after his speech. That's the real weird thing, not us. When Trump is the fucking the presidential candidate for your party. Trump is notoriously odd when it comes to his relationship with his fucking trophy wife. It just doesn't make any sense. You can't do that. Like, it doesn't work. It will always fall. It will always fall on deaf ears. Okay. That's number one. Number two, I think this is similar to when, like, you know, someone like Sneeko will try to be like, Hasan, you're so fucking soy. You're so soy. You're so gay. You're such a beta male, shit like that. Where it's like, bro, look at yourself and then look at me. Do you think the average person who isn't primed into believing weird right-wing narratives is going to look at a person like me that is completely uninitiated, is going to look at a person like me and look at a person like you and be like, between these two motherfuckers, Hasan is the soy one. That's crazy. At the end of the day, we have primal lizard brains, okay? And we respond to shapes and colors on screen. So if something is so obviously in the opposite direction, you can't pull normal people in the margins into believing that. Yeah, dude, they're coping about numbers like this. Michigan net favorables, Walz plus 14, Harris plus 2, Vance minus 6, Trump minus 10. Vance minus 11. I told you. Anyone that is like close enough to fucking Ohio, which also despises Vance, is going to hate Vance. You can only try to lean into what people are thinking and maybe exacerbate that attitude. You can't just like genuinely rework the way people respond to certain things that they feel, certain things that they watch, certain things that they see. This is a legitimate problem within the Republican Party, where they personally think that like Hollywood liberal media is the reason why people have these attitudes, right? That they think like people are, I don't know, pro-gay because of liberal media. And the response to that is making like right-wing media that will then brainwash people into having right-wing opinions and like being anti-gay and all this shit. And they don't realize that like, no, man, Hollywood fucking does that shit because there's like a lot of gay people in Hollywood and they don't have that kind of attitude. It's like an organic thing that they feel. And most people over the course of many, many years, especially when like legislation changes as well, their attitudes reflect that reality that they experience on the ground. Like marketing doesn't work in that direction. You can get people to move a little bit in your direction if they're already primed to feel a certain way, but you can't like seriously rework the attitudes that people have
on their own skin because they aren't comfortable with their policy positions for the American people. And so they're name calling. I think that's weird, Dana, but like they can call me whatever they want to.
You're saying Tim Walz doesn't have affection for his wife? I don't even understand that.
I said that he acted weird, which he did, on a national stage in front of his wife and in front of millions of Americans who presumably were watching at home. And I think that it's projection, Dana. Look, I think this election should be about who's going to solve the inflation crisis, who's going to make groceries and housing more affordable, who's going to secure that southern border. Kamala Harris's record is that she supported all the policies that made that problem worse, Dana. We're trying to say we're going to take the country in a different direction. I really think that it's important to point this out, Dana. Their entire campaign has not been about, here's our policy for how we're going to make your life better, or here's what's wrong with Donald Trump and J.D. Vance's policies. We're going to name call and hope that you don't know.
Oh, no, he your man. He big mad, chat. He mad as fuck right now. Oh, they're just name calling us. No, that's the whole point of weird, dumbass. It's weird that you guys are hyper focusing on random nonsensical bullshit that you're lasered in on that ain't nobody gives a fuck about instead of policies that actually help people. That's the whole point of the weird campaign. That's it. That's it. That's the whole point. So you can't reframe that now. You can't run away from that. Just be weird, bro. I mean, you are. You literally can't stop yourself. You just said, "Oh, I'm not weird." Tim Walz, he gave his wife a handshake. That's weird. There's nothing funnier than the Republican Party being like, they're name calling us. It's really fucked up.
Notice that we don't have an agenda. That is the entire Democrat approach to this election.
They have done both. They have both policies, and they are trying to define
Dana,
you as well.
If you go to Kamala Harris's campaign page right now, they still don't have a policy.
Well, let's talk about policy
positions
versus
about what they're going to do. I think that's really insulting to Americans.
You started out talking about the policies in this interview. You have been on the campaign trail.
Yeah, she said you started talking about the policies in this interview, and then resorted to saying, "I'm not weird. Tim Walz is weird. Look at the way he shook his wife's hand." I said this earlier, and I saw another chatter actually repeat it in the chat as well. One thing that they haven't done yet, I brought this up before, which I think will inevitably happen, is talk about how like Tim Walz's sperm is weak, and that's why they had to do IVF. It's coming.
Questioning Tim Walz's military record. You say it was shameful that Governor Walz retired from the military before his unit deployed to Iraq. I want to read you something that Joe Eustace, who is a veteran, he served with Governor Walz, said. He said that's a lie. He said he was as good a soldier as you'll find. I'm not trying to defend him. I hope people don't think that. What I'm trying to do is defend someone who served his country. I'm not voting for him. I'll campaign against him, but I don't think it's fair to characterize his service the way they have. Governor Walz served 24 years. He even stayed after he could have retired because of 9/11, more than the country asked of him. Do you honor his service?
Well, of course, Dana, I honor his service, and I've never criticized what Tim Walz did when he was in the military. I criticized his retirement decision, and most importantly, Dana, I criticized his lying about his own record, okay? This is a guy who was captured on video saying, "I carried a gun in war." He never went to war. This is a guy who's been captured on video. As other people say, he's an Afghanistan veteran. He's a veteran of a war, nodding along in agreement instead of saying, no, I did serve my country and I did it honorably, but I I never went to a war zone. I'm not criticizing Tim Walz's service. I'm criticizing the fact that he lied about his service for political gain, Dana. Now, I served in the United States Marine Corps, and you know this. And look, there are a lot of things that I'm proud about. I've never lied about what I did or overstated it because it would be beneficial to me in an election. I think that's what Tim Walz did.
Bros, this guy is like Republican Buttigieg, yes. And even Buttigieg has like a little bit more charisma than he does. Buttigieg has like more, I can't believe I'm saying this. Buttigieg has more swag than JD does. Straight up. They both got that dog in them though, like the ambition. It's poison. And you can tell. You can tell when a dude is like such a fucking careerist that is just so desperate for a crumb of power.
That's what I was criticizing. And yes, I do think it's scandalous behavior.
Like the only difference between him and Buttigieg is that JD Vance is gay, you know?
Talked about one of the things that he said, weapons of war. He was talking in a campaign stop about, he was trying to talk about gun control.
Sure.
And he said, weapons of war I carried in war. I will say that the Harris-Walz campaign did say that the governor misspoke there.
Sure.
Do you accept that?
He misspoke. Another word is that he lied about it, and he didn't correct the record for 15 years until he was put under political pressure because I called it out, Dana. Whatever you want to call it, a misspeaking or a lie, I think Tim Walz should have to correct the record. Now, you pointed out a soldier who defended his service. There have been a number of soldiers who served with Tim Walz who have criticized him on the exact same grounds that I have because it's not right to misstate or to embellish what you've done, and I think that's what he did.
And on the question of when he left the National Guard, he filed his election paperwork February 10th, 2005. That was a month before the National Guard even announced that it was possible that they would deploy to Iraq, and it ended up being 2 months. He retired 2 months.
Can we be honest for a minute here and recognize that Walz did mislead the public about being deployed in an active war zone? I don't think he did that. He said he wielded weapons of war, which he did. National Guard trains with the same weapons as he does others. Yeah, no, it's like a weird semantics thing that people are hyper focusing on. He said he took weapons into war during his speech, and he said he misspoke. That's it. That's what it is. God, I love liberals so much. I love you guys, man. Hey, liberals, just know I got love for you, okay? Some of you are quite literally the easiest to fucking dupe. It's just like Republicans can play you like a fucking fiddle. When the Republicans are like saying the most unhinged shit, they always love falling for it. They always love looking into like the veracity of the claims made when it's like something that you normally would never consider.
2 months before they actually got the paperwork.
But on CNN last night, Dana, one of the people who was actually in charge of him said they knew they were going to deploy to Iraq in February of 2004, fall of 2004. So he knew he was going to Iraq. He decided to quit, to retire, whatever word you want to use.
Retire.
Because he wanted to run for Congress. He lied about that. He said that when he decided to retire, he did not know that he was going to Iraq. That is another untruth, as even his senior military officer said. So again, I'm not criticizing the service. I'm criticizing the dishonesty. Dishonesty spoken.
Like, this is crazy, bro. Donald Trump literally fucking dodged the draft, #1, which, by the way, I think was good. It's good that he did that. Why the should you die for a genocidal campaign? Like, that's insane. Okay, that's #1. #2, everybody, including Donald Trump and JD Vance, run on the anti-Iraq war narrative. So why the are you like, oh, I don't understand. This like 50-year-old guy was supposed to go in Iraq. It's really up that he didn't, but we also simultaneously believe and say that it was unjustifiable and wrong, and many Americans died for no fucking reason. These two things don't make sense. Like, what are you saying? What are you saying?
In favor and for the purpose of political benefit. And I think that the most important thing here, Dana, is it goes to Kamala Harris's judgment. Tim Walz is ultimately going to be the
Thank you for inventing the talking point that Donald Trump dodged the draft. I could not have actually come up with this on my own.
Vice President. Kamala Harris is in great health. I'm sure she's going to be president if she wins for 4 or maybe even 8 years. Why did Kamala Harris choose a person who has lied about their military service? I think that is a serious lapse in judgment. And I don't want to hear from a campaign spokesperson of Kamala Harris. I want to hear Kamala Harris herself address what I just said.
You know, I've seen a lot of statements from veterans, including those you served with, saying it's just untoward to be criticizing somebody who served for 24 years.
Dana, I'm not interested in the ad hominem. I've heard from a lot of veterans groups who criticize Tim Walz. The question is, he said he served in war, and he didn't.
I'm not interested in the ad hominem. Shut up. Oh, he's really going after that Reddit vote, dude.
Is a dishonesty. I couldn't care less what one or the other person says about it. I care about what the truth is. The truth is that Tim Walz didn't tell the truth. And importantly, Dana, this is about Kamala Harris's judgment. And I think that when you ask, why has Kamala Harris allowed the border to be wide open? Why has Kamala Harris supported policies that have promoted the increase in inflation? I think it goes to the heart of her judgment. And I think that that's what we should be talking about.
One last question. Donald Trump didn't serve in the military. He received a medical draft deferment for bone spurs to avoid serving in the Vietnam War, reportedly as a favor to his father. Do you find that shameful, too?
I think that Donald Trump didn't serve in the military, but he didn't lie about it, Dana. I've known Donald Trump for a long time. He
don't think
really honors our
so you
veterans.
think
He
he had
honors me
bone
for my
spurs?
service. Donald Trump didn't lie about
It's such a, yeah, I can't believe Dana just heard that chatter's talking point. I'm glad that that chatter actually chimed in with that earlier.
serving in the military. He didn't say that he went to Vietnam when he didn't. This is the problem. I don't criticize anybody. Whether they served our country or not, I think it's honorable to serve, but obviously a lot of people have reasons for not serving.
Oh, dude, it's sick, actually. Dude, come on. Do you fucking hear yourself, dude? No, my opponent is lying about his fucking career. 24 years in the goddamn National Guard. And like, he literally left so he could run for Congress. But also, my president, he's totally valid for not, for dodging the fucking draft. Come on, bro.
I criticize somebody for embellishing their record, for lying, saying, I went to war. Dana, do you think that it's a problem that he said, I went to war, but he didn't actually? That seems to be a problem to me.
Well, they've corrected that. Let's move on to...
They've corrected it by admitting that he
Let's
lied.
move on to another...
Dude, it's not like Tim Walz was running around being like, yeah, I fucking love war. And I went into war. I was always in war. I've been in war all the time. I war. It's like everybody knows he didn't fucking start. He didn't go into war. What the fuck? Like, we got him, boys. We got him. He misspoke. Like, we got him. We got him.